Okay, so we do have a few minutes for some conversation and questions and comments and interactions and dialogue. And so Nettie would just stay up here, and then we just have a couple announcements to kind of move us on. Any questions? Yes.
I just want to make two comments. One is at the local level, I decided about 9 years ago to try to be self-sufficient in fruit and vegetables. And yes, I live on the southern BC coast, which helps. But I would say we eat 90% of our own fruit and vegetables. And it's not that hard in the end. The pain of giving up avocados and bananas is outweighed by the incredible joy of connection to the seasons. And even if you're not in a place where you can do that yourself, the food is growing around you and it can be done. So I just want to say it's just been a phenomenally joyous journey for me to take that step. And the other thing I want to say that to support the work that Nettie is doing is that I'm also a member of the National Farmers Union, and for a few dollars, you too can be a member of the National Farmers Union. And the reason I joined the National Farmers Union was because a couple years ago I was in Nairobi at the World Social Forum, which is a gathering of global social justice and environmental activists, and I was talking to some of the people from Via Campesina, which is the global peasant movement, and I said, well, how do I support you? How do I belong? You know, what can I do in my small way? And they say, well, you can be a member of Via Campesino if you join an organization that's a member of Via Campesino. I said, well, how do I do that? I live in the Canada. And they said, well, join the National Farmers Union. So I did. So I just wanted to say it's just a great way to have a little doorway into the work that Nettie's doing and that what is happening in agriculture in our country. So I really thank you for coming here today. It's great.
Well, thank you. I would never have had the nerve to make that kind of a pitch for our organization. Thank you.
So you made a comment, you were just shy of controversy. We're not shy of controversy here. That's great. Any other comments? We have a couple over here.
Thank you, Nettie. How do you reconcile with your own organic farming that you are part of that ecosystem of other people making decisions about their own farming, where you are needing the water that is contaminated and the same air, and that you are not in a dome in your own organic practices?
The same way as you reconcile that you live in cities and eat food that comes from these systems, you do what you can to change. You speak gently and invitingly to your neighbors all the time because we live there generation by generation. We can't be flagged as radicals and outsiders. We are insiders. And from that perch, you do what you can to persuade people. I always have a very nice garden, and all of my neighbors see that I have a very nice garden, and you don't need any chemicals. And I make good pickles, too.
I just wanted to ask you to please just speak from your experience as an ethicist. You haven't really focused on that at all, except in an inferential way. I wonder if you might speak directly to how you look at the crisis that I see as an ethical crisis for humanity itself.
I'm not hearing the question.
It's on. You just hold it closer.
Oh, sorry. You there? You got me? Yeah, okay. I wanted to request that you speak from your knowledge as an ethicist at how our humankind is not behaving ethically, how you understand that when the evidence is so clear we need to.
I'm a Christian ethicist, and I hold it as a basis of faith that humankind is not evil, that we are good. And that there are forces among us, though, and collectivities among us that push us in directions. And I named one of these premises around efficiency. And I think efficiency has attendant with it all kinds of arrogant attitudes around use of resources, around whose privilege it is to extract maximum amount out of, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's a lot of attitudes there, moral attitudes, that I think warrant correction, reorientation. But then, do I have a minute here? Let me just say something that for me is important as an ethicist. All of us who hear what disaster is upon us ecologically, if we're rational and use our brains and look forward, we hardly have room to be optimistic. If optimism is that stance of sort of predictable positive outcomes from the trend lines, that rational sort of stance, we hardly have room to be optimistic because mostly things are going in the wrong direction in terms of life sustainability. And it is almost entirely, how shall I say, the fault of humankind. But we have a lot of room to be hopeful. And you should distinguish between optimism and hope. Hope is that possibility of good things that are unseen but possible, imaginable. And I and you and everyone in this room who has goodwill could imagine a much, much better world in which we and our children and our longed for grandchildren would have a future that is much more rooted and a much more delightful, life-giving future. And we can imagine that. And then it's our prospect to get stepping along in that direction. And as an ethicist, that's, as I said, when I'm reasonable, it's hard to be optimistic. But when I'm human, it's easy to be hopeful. That doesn't really respond, but it would take me